What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of the Entertainment Plug. As you guys can probably see, I am in the home studio today, so I'm sweating and listen, I'm hot, but we finna have a good time. Listen, I got my guests laughing already. Um, it's crazy, but we are having a good time. I'm having a good time. As everybody knows, I see some of you guys trickling in already on YouTube. Where you at? Come on, y'all. Um, I am happy to be here as always. As everybody knows, I love this media thing. I have been at it. I was just telling my guests that I started when I was 5, so I've been doing this for about 20 years, a little bit more, um, and I'm having a good time. Really amazing guest today. Actually, somebody who really feeds into something I love, which is books. So many people out here, so many amazing authors, so many people releasing, so many good books. And I think probably one of my biggest issues that I think resonates with a lot of people is that I'm doing so much stuff and I'm doing so much running that I very seldom have the time to actually sit down and crack open a book and really start reading. And the same thing goes with magazines, which I'm sure you guys can imagine. That is why I started UG Digital, which everything is digital. So you don't have to open the magazine or go and buy it because who's got time for that? So I'm into a lot of different books. I have bought so many different books from different celebrities, and I've never read them because I just don't have the time to do it. So here we are with our amazing guest today, who she's not a first time author, so she has an amazing series which we are going to talk about that I have actually started getting into now. And why? Because it's available on Audible. Um, that listen, Audible is like heaven to me, like for different books and whatnot. And I think I first discovered Audible maybe when D.L. Hewley released his book. I want to say it was through Audible. I do know that he had an audio.
Mhm.
So the only reason that I knew what was in his book was because I was able to listen to it when I was in the car and that kind of thing. So I think this is really amazing. Plus, she's just an amazing woman altogether. And you guys know that I like to have amazing people on my platform. So all of that aside, everybody knows that I can talk forever and ever a day about the littlest thing. I'm gonna just go ahead and welcome my guest. She has an amazing series that is called Ascension. So you have Ascension 1, you have Ascension 2, and you have Descension. I'm on Ascension 1, and getting in, but I think probably by the end of today, I can really tell you something really good about the book. But I do know that it starts off very well, though. So, and she has a new series that is actually getting ready to drop June 2nd. So
Mhm.
that's right around the corner. She is definitely going to be talking about and highlighting that. And I'm sure so many other things. We're going to get to know who she is, how she got started, why this was such, a need in her life, and how she's contributing to the community with that. Which I mean, we can all imagine how she's contributing to the community as an author. But again, all of that aside, let's welcome our guest today, Yolanda Hatcher. How are you?
Thank you. I'm wonderful right now. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate you just shouting me out. I appreciate to be being this part of this platform in the first place. So thank
Yeah,
you for that. And again, I feel like the things that we do for our culture is we're the only ones who are going to care about our culture. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
we have to go out there and we have to be the trailblazers in that way. So definitely,
Absolutely.
thank you. I'm so excited to be a part of your show.
And I'll say likewise. I know we talked just for a couple minutes before we actually went live, and this actually feeds it really feeds my spirit just to be able to imagine something else and see other pictures, see other things that people have going on in their lives, and not actually have to necessarily read through a book to be able to do it. So like, I told
Mhm.
you when I first got started that the Audible piece of it is like heaven on earth to me because it was, when Brandon sent me everything, it was like, I'm not even gonna lie, like I don't have time to sit out through it. Like I'm gonna be working all day today, all day tomorrow, all day on
Mhm.
Friday. But when I saw that there was the Audible version, I'm like, I'm in the car for half of the day Uber. So it's like
Mhm.
pull it out, check out the phone, download it, and start listening. And I heard this man's voice, and I'm like, okay, um, because I think with DL Hewley's, it was actually his voice. So
Right, right.
when it came on, I was expecting to hear your voice, and I'm like, that's not her. I'm like, is this really it? But it's exciting though. And I do want to open the floor really just for you to talk about your first series because I know that it's a
Mhm,
three-parters: Ascension 1, Ascension 2, and Descension. So kind of start
mhm,
at the beginning and how you even like first how you even came up with the concept of
mhm.
Ascension.
Well, again, I'm an Audible listener as well. And I truly appreciate just, listening to kind of escaping in a way.
Yeah.
Obviously, growing up, it was all about books for me. My head was always in the clouds. I was always, like making up stories. I would write stories when I was like, I don't know, I remember being maybe like 10 years old writing stories. And then before that, it was like playing with my Barbie dolls and creating stories in that way as well. So as I got older, I got really into romance fantasy. I like that genre. I like um, romance, of course, but then I also just like magical realism. I like to see like, I like things where even movies, books, and things where there's like someone has some type of power. Of course,
Yeah.
I was like a big uh like manga and
Yeah.
anime person.
Uh-huh.
So I used to read the books as well as watch all of the cartoons, the anime cartoons and things like
Yeah.
that. And I always was just into that type of like, superheroes, all that kind of thing.
It's
So
weird because I
yeah,
it's not to cut you off. It's weird because I never got into like the manga and like the anime and stuff like that.
I was a
But
nerd. I was
well, I
a
was
total
too, but I was every bit of a nerd. Probably kind of still am at we'll say 25. But I
25.
probably am still a bit of a not nah, keeping it all the way funky. I'm gonna be 47 this year. But I'm
You look
kind
it.
of I appreciate it, but I'm still every bit of a nerd. Like, so I mean,
Mhm,
there's a lot of stuff that I can really get into, but I never got into that. Like, I was always on like mystery.
mhm,
I'm trying to figure out like who did this and why did they do it, and like I was so heavy into like mystery books and novels and that kind of thing. So as a kid, I read a lot of stuff like that, and I would watch a lot of shows and different things like that, and maybe a little bit of science fiction and stuff like that. Then
yeah,
another thing, I'm into a lot of like self help. So when you think of
yeah, mhm,
like the Susie Ormans and just so many different people that are putting different books out just about self help. So I got into a lot of that
mhm,
stuff, but that's cool though. I mean, I can see like where a lot of the I guess the like the whole spirit of like imagination would come from, like
mhm.
especially if you're into anime.
Oh yeah, like I used to always just think through crazy stories. So one day, I guess I had like a dream, a weird dream, um, and it was about like this scene of like in the book that's kind of where the characters kind of connect in a way. The male character, the male lead and the female lead kind of connect in a way that they kind of share their magic together. And
Okay.
so it was like a weird, like kind of dream that I had. I woke up and I was like, "What was that?" And then I started writing out of nowhere. And so from that, it just kind of just started becoming something fun I did on the side.
Yeah.
And as a romance fantasy reader, I just wanted to hear from the bad guy. Like I always watch shows and movies and things, and I always was fascinated with the bad guy in the story because I'm like, you know what? I like a real good bad guy. Like if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. And I'm gonna let you finish this thought. I got a question already off of something you just said, but that actually relates very closely to me and what I'm doing in media. But go ahead though.
Okay, yeah, no. So for me, I was like, I read so many. I've just completely just like, binged a lot of romance fantasy books, and I was like, all of them kind of have the same concept at the end of the day. At the end of the day, if you read the same genre over and over and over again, it's about, love, and maybe there's a bad guy, but the bad guy changes himself to get with the girl, to get the girl in the end. I wanted to write a book where the bad guy is the bad guy, and the girl, he still gets the girl no matter what. So and when I set for to write this story, I just did it for fun, just to kind of just get it out of me, because all I can all I can do is just kind of stop. I couldn't stop thinking about something, so I just would write it down. So I was
Yeah.
kind of, before I knew it, I had a whole entire story. And I just like let my friend read it one day. I'm like, hey, you like romance fantasy? Let me know what you think. Like, read the story for me. She read it and she was like, you need to put that book out there. And I was like, no, no, no. I'm just doing this for fun. It's just something that I like to do. And she was like, no, you need, this book is so good. Like, she really hyped me up. And so that really like pushed me. And then now, I actually went and pushed it and published it. So that's kind of where it all started. Yeah.
Okay. Are you able to see the comments that pop up at the bottom of the
Yes,
screen?
yes. Yes, thank you,
So
Kat.
that lets you know too that somebody watching. So so you don't have to keep me talking if nobody paying attention to us. But you said that you kind of just started doing it on the side, and that always fascinates me when somebody gets into something and they start doing it, and they kind of start doing it on the side. And like in all reality, when I started doing media, it was on the side. It was just like, okay, I really love doing this. I'm kind of not anybody yet. I'm kind of starting to get interviews.
Somebody.
Absolutely, and I think that's the first thing to realize, is that you are somebody. But I think in that moment, I didn't think I was nobody. I was just like, I'm just me. Like, I'm sitting at home in my bedroom and I'm doing interviews over the phone, and I was having a good time, and just kind of doing it on the side and just having a good time with it. And probably 10 years in, I'm like, okay, I probably should be making $1 or $2 or something off of this. Like, I'm doing a lot of interviews. So what kind of pushed you to that point of, okay, this is not on the side. This is me. This is what I want to do. This is my life.
I think people kind of giving me that confidence and that courage to move forward, because for me, it was just something like I was almost ashamed of it. It's a very juicy story. So I was almost ashamed of it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, why did I write this? Like, this is like crazy. This is like, I mean, it's not like 50 Shades of Grey level of like steam, but it's steamy, so there's some steam in there.
I'm not gonna front. I can get into some of them steam novels and stuff like that. As I'm getting older, I'm like, where was I at? Like, what was I doing? Like this kind of stuff. But go ahead.
Like I literally was just like, so like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Like, why did I write this? Like, I'm like, I'm from a Caribbean family of like, we're very like kind of you kind of have to have a certain, like, you were raised a certain way, you know what I mean? And so for me, I like to put that type of work out there. I used to be so embarrassed about it. Because it's like, oh, well, there's like sex scenes and all this stuff, but people love that type of romance and reading how things get there. So it took me a while to understand how to write these type of scenes to make it not be raunchy, but like a part of the story in such a way. So, but then I was very much interested in, I kind of write like how I would want a movie to be. If this book were a movie, how would I write it? So there's a lot of like cliffhangers at the end of each chapter. There's a lot of like, I really took my time. Yeah, like it's very much a psychological thriller at the end of the day, because it switches up, it changes route. Like you're thinking you're just reading a regular romance fantasy book, where honestly you think it's just a romance book in the beginning. And then magic gets introduced, and then slowly these things start happening with the characters, where you're kind of like, wait a second, this is turned into one of those like kind of mystery type novels at the end of the day as well. So I wrote it almost like how I would want a movie of it to be. And
get out of my head, because I
so it just, and so then just to push it out, so people giving me the confidence and saying, hey, like, You should really put this out there. It's so good. And I'm like, you really think so? And it really just helped me just having like the right friends around me at that time who were really like pushing me to publish it. And so I ended up publishing it. And it was, it was nerve wracking if I can say it. I was like, girl, what did I just do? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like, this is so embarrassing.
You are spilling all of the lessons. So that's one of the other things is that when I have these conversations and I bring people onto the platform, like I want people to feel like they're actually getting something out of it. So any of you who are watching for the first time, so this is your first time watching one of our platforms or one of the podcasts that I'm a part of, know that you'll always get something out of it, and there's going to be little nuggets that are going to come to you, and I do my best to really point them out as they come along. And you mentioned well, right now you really just mentioned kind of being afraid to put it out because you were a little bit embarrassed. And what I have found, even like in terms of doing media and stuff like that, the stuff that you kind of really run from because you think that people aren't gonna dig it or that type of thing, those are the things that people really are looking for from you. And it really just kind of allows you to really step into your own and be yourself and do what it is that you know you do, because it's only one you. So ain't nobody else out here doing it like you're doing it. And clearly it's a hit. You got a 3-part series and you getting ready to you releasing a whole new series now. Like I think what you're doing is amazing, and you're teaching so many people like us, like black and brown people that
thank you.
can really do this and they can have fun with it. And I realized that like with a lot of the media stuff that I do, like I'm really teaching people who are coming behind me and who are under me and that sort of thing that you really could do this. Like if you want to do it, you really could do it. It's always somebody that's going to kind of try to discourage you from what it is that you're doing. I think the beautiful thing is that you had people in your life and in your circle who were encouraging you to actually publish this, which is the next nugget, is that you have to keep the right people in your circle. And a lot of people are going to encourage you, because if you don't, you'll have a lot of people around you who are telling you don't do that, and it's not going to do any good, and you shouldn't do that. And they kind of push you away from being you and doing what it is that you know you do and that you do well. But you had good people in your circle. So like, was that something that was conscious for you, the people who you had in your life and in your circle, or did some of them just kind of land there and they encouraged you?
Well, no, they were, they were kind of around. They were my friends, for a while, and then I just decided to write it. And I wasn't really going to tell them that I was writing a book. I just like had it, and it was just something I was doing for fun every night. It was almost like my, like, you have a journal, but like this was my like journal basically, where I'll just write this fun story. And yes, it is very important to have certain people in your circle, because certain people who are not doing the normal stuff too. Like the normal stuff is, just like kind of there's a time to have fun, and it's a time for kind of building, you know what I mean? So the building is what I was looking for, a group of friends that can build with me or build something together, or separate, just like, or influence each other to build something, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's what I'm all about. Like I want our people to understand that there's things that you can, you whatever you're drawn to, that's most likely something you can build into a business.
Absolutely.
So whatever is your like, right. So like whatever is your like thing. So whatever you like to do, I realize about myself, I like to tell, like when I tell someone a story about what happened, I could be like, I went to the store. But my story is, I went to the store and there was like this on the pavement, and then when I opened the door, it made this sound, and then I went to the back left of the store, and I found this drink, and the drink had this label on it, and like I'm like too detailed, and then people are like, okay, and I realized that was always my thing. I would just like kind of like give too much details in a regular, it could be a regular story, and I would just go in all the time. So I realized I'm a storyteller at the end of the day. I like to tell stories. So it was just like,
maybe I'm a storyteller because I can tell the story. I can tell.
I will just pull in like all the details possible, and the person's like, okay, I don't need to know the you could smell rain in the air. Like, I don't, what are you talking about? Like, okay, just tell me you went to the store. Okay. Like, and then they'll laugh and they'll say, 5 minutes later, okay, you went to the store and you went and grabbed some ice cream. Okay. Gotcha. Like,
That's
you know what
like,
I mean?
that sounds like a conversation with me and my sister. I start talking and she's like, "You sound like your dad. Get to the point. Like, get
Yeah,
to the
yeah, get
point."
to the point.
Like,
Yeah.
we gotta go. Like, I can't do it. So yeah.
Yeah. And then once I realized that about myself, so I was also in the middle of writing this book, I was on a journey of finding myself. So I
Okay.
always had this lack of confidence. I always had this kind of like a belittling nature about myself. I would always put myself down, dim my light. I'm like, oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. I would always just like kind of be almost too humble about everything. And I during this time I'm also learning spirituality and getting in touch with myself and learning who I am and what makes me me, and the things that I can say for sure I just like doing, and this is me, I like this. I was always kind of, when the society that we live in, you feel like, you have to kind of conform to a lot of things. And for me, I was able to step out and say, no, I don't want to be a part of that. And I want to uplift our people and I want to do this. Like, you know what I mean? So I just started kind of really breaking out of that over the years, and breaking out of that, finding myself in that way helped me to write these stories at the same time. So it's kind of like a journey at the end of the day of just connecting who I am
Uh-huh.
and learning and building that person up, like who is Yolanda, but also um building that confidence needed to put something out there and put multiple books out there. I used to look at other authors. I had like a great like author group like on Facebook. And I used to look at them and they would always put out books. Like it just be like 30 books a year. And I'm like, how do you guys do that? Like I got my one or two little books and I'm like, whatever, like, okay, I'm gonna write. But I realized that that's just my process. I don't have to have the same process as everyone else, because
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, I'm still putting out something, and at the end of the day it's still gonna like really hit when it comes out, you know what I mean? Like it's not gonna be like just like whatever. So I think that I Yolanda operate differently, where I had to look at that in myself and say, you know what, um I can do this a different route. So I use my own creativity. Like I do my own, like, if you look at, I don't know if you looked at my Instagram and stuff, I do my own like graphic images and things like that, because at the end of the day, I was an artist at the end of the day. That was my number one thing. So I was able to take that artistry and that creativity and turn it
Uh,
into a story.
let me tell you, um, and so many like everything that you just said in your last statement and your comments that you just made. Know that you are absolutely ministering to people. I can say specifically, there is one person who is watching, and you're literally ministering to her. I
Oh,
think that
wonderful.
we all, I think that we all go through kind of those phases and those periods where there's
Mhm.
self doubt, and we put ourselves down and we think that we're not good enough, and we think that the next person is doing way more than what I'm doing, and I should be
Mhm,
doing as
mhm,
much as they are. And part of really establishing yourself in this business, whether it's the media business or whether it's that of an author, or a storyteller, you have to kind of develop your own process
mhm.
and what works for you, and the people who follow you, they know what your process is, and they're not expecting you to do what the next person is doing.
That's a good point. Mhm.
They're not expecting you to do what the next person is doing. And it took me a long time to realize that. So, like, even me specifically, I would beat myself up about, okay, I'm trying to get these interviews and I'm trying to get this person, and some of these people I can't get to, and the
Mhm.
next person can get to them, and they got millions of views. And listen, you ain't gonna get
Compare
millions of views on
them.
any of my platforms because everything that I have done and everything that I have built is built organically, and it's really built around the substance of the content and what
Mhm.
it is that I'm putting out there and what it is that I'm delivering to the audience. And the reality is those venues that are getting millions of views, we're not even gonna talk about if the views are real, number one. So
That's true.
then the
Views.
and I can tell you probably 99% of the platforms, a lot of the viewers a lot of it is just not real.
Mhm.
Because in a lot of ways, when you look at kind of the timeline and when some of these things are started and when it's just not even humanly possible. If it
Mhm.
was people, it's just not even that possible because people have so much stuff going on in life today, and they're doing so many other things that
True. Mhm.
you just don't have a million people who just have that kind of time to be online and tagging on every story that you post and every video that you put up. And it took me a long time to realize that I have to develop obviously my own fan base, develop my own process, and just do me. And the people will come, the viewers will come. But
Right. Mhm.
again, everything that I've done is organic, and like I've really taken the time to get out there and actually build the fan base. So the one thing that people know when they do anything with us is that it's real people viewing, and
Mhm.
is really going to get to somebody. And you definitely are ministering to the person who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say no names, but I know this person is somebody who does amazing work, and a lot of times it's in that space of I'm not good enough,
Mhm.
or I don't deserve this, or like why is this happening because I don't deserve this. But
Yeah, there's a lot of imposter syndrome, and you got to think about the history.
that specifically, and
Right.
she speaks specifically about imposter syndrome. Like we went and we did an event in Atlanta a few months
Mhm.
ago, maybe about 4 months ago. We went and did an event in Atlanta, and that was one of the questions that she asked of somebody who was on the stage about imposter syndrome, and
Mhm.
she deals with it on a regular basis. But she is like if you could see the work that she does, she is
Right.
amazing. So
Yeah, and yeah, so the
I,
thing is too,
I
like,
really
it's
was just going to ask you. I'm sorry. I was just going to say, like, how did you kind of break away from that?
I
And know,
still I still suffer from that, honestly, sometimes. And when I started kind of stepping back and realizing that it's our culture that creates and
mhm,
not to say our people, but from the society that we live in, that
mhm,
we would it's trauma at the end of the day. It's trauma that was carried through generations that
mhm,
we don't think that we're good enough and we don't know that we can do these things and be on the same level as our other counterparts that are not,
yeah,
African American people and things like that. So it's just like me realizing that and calling it what it is because I
yeah,
didn't know how to call it what it was before. So I was able to, I still suffer with it, but I was able to step back and say, this is what it is, call it what it is, but still know that you're just as good as the other person or the other author who does romance fantasy that has, a million followers and things like that, because at the end of the day, once I started seeing my reviews coming in, and I was like, people really like this. What? Like, people really want to read this book. People are like looking for it. I had people reach out to me, and I just want to say to each and every single one of them who reached out, I just like, I'm so grateful because that gave me a push. It would be a day where I'm just not feeling, I'm not feeling up to it. I feel kind of down about it or whatever. Just feel like I can't create as efficiently as I'd like to. But because I had that one person reach out and say, I love your book so much. Thank you so much. I can't wait until the next part of the story.
yeah,
And that was like, wow. Like that one person could be like life changing for me. So you really just need those people in your corner who really support you, because you have to kind of call it out when you see it and know, okay, I'm experiencing imposter syndrome right now. Let's just move forward from this. Like, this is what that is. Okay, so what's next? So you know that you're like, you know that you are like everything. You know what I mean? Like, you know that you're everything, but you just don't. You have those days, those up and down days. But then when you realize that everything that you say to yourself gets put out in the universe, and your universe reciprocates that. So
yeah,
you have to be able to put out there that you are it. You are going to build things. You are going to be a good entrepreneur. You are going to be the best in your category. You have to say these things out loud sometimes to help you. So that's what I do. Like, I really try to work towards kind of talking to myself, to the person who's having the doubts internally, and
right,
telling her, no, 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 that's not what it is. We're going to do this. we're going to kill this and it's going to be the best. And you know what I mean? So it's just like one of those things, because again, we got to remember where we all came from as a culture. And we have to connect those things that all the things that happened to our people in the past. It was what built us today. It's literally in our DNA. So when we feel that, we need to realize, okay, recognize what it is. And you have to show your ancestors, oh no, I'm chosen for a reason. I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to build and I'm going to do this thing. And so that's what I kind of work towards, this kind of making my ancestors proud when it comes to just things that I like to do. I was given a gift for a reason. You know what I mean? So what am I going to do with that gift? I'm going to keep it hidden, or I'm going to put it out there.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of how I think of it.
I think that I just want to say, like, and I feel like you realize it, but I was just going to say that through your work, you're breaking that cycle, because I think a lot of what you say, I honestly believe and agree that a lot of it comes directly from our culture. It comes from, a lot of it is coming from our people, and a lot of times we make each other feel like the other is not good enough, and like they need to be doing this or they need to be doing more. And I think that what you're doing is just perfect. There's a lot of people who are really going to have that takeaway, I believe, even just from watching this video and watching what it is that you're doing and the miracles that you're making, not even just for your readers, but for yourself. The things that you're doing for yourself to keep yourself going and doing this. Like, I just think it's amazing. Ascension, was it always intended for it to be 3 parts?
Yes, I always knew I wanted to do a trilogy. That's a typical book count when you're doing a romance fantasy. It's always the first part of the story, the second part, the third part's kind of ending everything.
Gotcha.
However, when I set forth to write book 4, I knew I wanted to do a time jump. I knew that I wanted it to be related, because when I was ending the Ascension series, I said to myself, oh, there's so many characters in here. There's so many different types of like people. Like, so I have like, I'm really into like mythology and things like that. So I have like, like fairies and things, and elves and all of this stuff that's in like that kind of folklore type background. And so I wanted to create something that I can build upon, so that I know I can turn into multiple books down the line. I can switch it up. I can talk about the humans next. I can switch it up. I can go about talk about the elves. I can build and expand on this kind of universe within the Ascension series. So when I set forth to write book 4, I knew I wanted to do a spin-off of the series. And I said, this is going to be just like how I'd watch a TV show. What would I want to see as a spin-off? So I started thinking through all this stuff, but then it's a time jump. So what was difficult for me was think to myself, what does the world look like 11 years in the future?
Okay.
So how is the human realm, and how is the connection between kind of our current day? What would it look like 11 years from now, and all of that stuff? So technology, I had to set the stage for what everything looks like. What technologies and devices is everyone using, and things like that, because I do kind of ping pong back and forth from the human realm to this fairy realm it's called Anwin in Welsh mythology. And so in Anwin and in the human realm, what does it look like? Is there what is is there nature maybe in the fairy realm, and is the human realm just like less in the future? Is it mostly like buildings and maybe no nature, no trees and stuff, because in the future that's what people say would happen. So I have to think through all of these little things, but also at the same time build upon the characters' personalities and build upon their growth. Like, did they grow or did they regress? Like, where are they now? That was kind of the hard part of it, but I somehow got a book out of it. So, I didn't think I was going to go anywhere with that at first. I was like, but then the inspiration just kept going and going, and just I next thing you know, I have a book that's even bigger than the last book.
Right.
It's a pretty big book. I have it. I actually ordered some copies. They're not here yet, from Amazon. And but yeah, it's I have a lot to say clearly because it became a book, and it's now going to be a series. And I already started writing kind of the concept for the next book in this series. So
Okay.
very excited.
How long did it take you to really come up with all of the details of like the fourth book, considering that it is like an 11-year time jump?
Mm-hmm. So I wanted, okay, so when I write, I'm always thinking about morals of the story at the end of the day. Like, okay, I'm all about, the Ascension series touched on, okay, there is dark and there's light, and everyone has dark and light within them. That's what makes people people, or makes you you. You know what I mean? So it's more of a acceptance that people have these two polar opposites within them.
Right.
So don't judge a book by its cover, and don't judge that, a person is so-called considered dark, but then, they can also do things right at the same
Right.
time.
I
So
like that.
yeah, so like, and then the same thing when it comes to, like in the Ascension series, it's about, the main character, the guy, is mostly about him and how he finds his love of his life, and he finds his soulmate. And
Okay.
she finds his soulmate, and she has to find it within herself as a person who's considered light, a light fairy in her realm. She needs to find it in her heart to accept him for who he is and meet him halfway.
Right.
So there's, at the same time, there's prophecies going on. There's prophecies. There's that battle between dark and light, but there's also the real bad guy who they have to defeat together. So darkness and light have to come together to defeat the real bad guy in the story, even though, the main character would be considered a bad guy in his own right. So so thinking through that, I used the prophecy in the book, and I started planting seeds in the first series. So planting seeds with, okay, they have at the end, there's children involved in all of this stuff. So the prophecy talks about the children in the future and what they would do, and the things that they would do to save their realm and things like that. So I started putting things together in that way. So when I started doing book 4, I would just I have this really weird thing where I'll just have like a whole entire dialogue in my head, and I'll just write that down, because that's what comes, whenever it comes to me, I'm going to write it down, because I'm going to use it somewhere in some point in one of these books, in the future. So I'll have a fun dialogue that I'm like, oh, I like that, I'm going to use that, and then I'll just create it and I'll write it down. But I'll also have a bit of an outline, but not necessarily like, my creative process is not very, I guess it's not the typical creative process. I don't write down an outline with like, chapter 1 is going to be this, chapter 2 is going to be that, chapter 3 is going to, I'm like, I just want to write the book at the end of the day. I don't want to think through. I don't want to make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started writing that, and I started pulling. I had to go back and do my own research in my own books from the first trilogy to write the 4th book. So I had to go in and reread everything and say, okay, he said that one little line there. Let me make sure that I bring that up later on in book 4.
Right.
Like things like
I was going to ask you. I didn't know how I wanted to word the question, but essentially you just answered it though. But that makes sense though.
Yeah, the connecting, like almost doing research on your own stuff is kind of weird, but I had to go back, because I know if I'm at the end of the day, I'm a reader too. Like that's where I started. You know what I mean? So I would want to connect these things. What would I want to see with this character or whatever? And I remember back in that book, he said this, and then that could come up later on as a foreshadowing that comes up later on in the book 4. So things like that. So I pulled different things from the book that I said, that sounds good. That sounds good. Let's expand on that. Let's expand on this. Let's expand on that. Yeah. And then next thing you know, I have the book written, but it's 11 years in the future. But I'm thinking through certain tropes. So the concept of, of course, having a soulmate is there. The concept of prophecies are there. But then it's also a familial type of relationship that you're following at the end of the day. Gotcha. So you learn about these families and these different houses, as I call them. And then down the line in book 4, you learn the connection between why the kid, the child who's in the book 3 doesn't feel like he has a close relationship with his dad, like things like that. Like I had to connect these type of familial things that happen within families. And then he's like, I'm nothing like my dad. I'm nothing like my dad. When at the end of the day, he is his dad. You know what I mean? So things like that, where we learn that it's okay to be like whatever parent. You know what I mean? It's okay to be that, because that's what makes you you. So all these little things and experiences and the people that you call your parents and the people you call your family are all what make you who you are. So all of these things, I wanted this story to have a feel of some drama, some love story, some crazy twists and turns, but also at the end of the day, there's this moral in the story that you're like, oh, okay, this is why.
Yeah.
So
So when does this all become a TV series? Like when?
I know, right? Well, first and foremost, it's going to be coming out on Audible. I haven't started the Audible process yet, but I want it on Audible because I want people to hear it. But I want to do a different route this time around, where I'm going to have more characters, almost what do you call it? Recording it together so that it sounds like a movie. And I want the sound effects of, like, if a person's walking on gravel, I want to hear the gravel. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to have that.
I'm so ready for that. I'm so ready for that.
So that's I just wanted to know.
I was gonna ask you, really, like, would it ever be like your voice on the audio piece? But what you're talking about, okay, don't be mad, but I don't even want your voice now. I want the characters. Because
no, 100%. I don't even like my voice like that. Honestly, I just feel like I don't want to hear myself talk at all.
Now,
but no,
that sounds really cool. Like, that sounds really, really dope.
Oh yeah, and then see, people don't realize about Audible. If you're a really big Audible listener too, you realize, well, okay, let me go back. If you're an Audible listener of fiction, you realize that Audible has a separate, almost unspoken about platform of narrators, that people are like, I want that narrator. I only want to hear books from that narrator. So you can filter it out on Audible, books from that narrator. Yeah. So I have my favorite narrator that I hired him to be that voice. Because I listened to his other books and I was like, oh my gosh, I really like his voice. So I hired him for my book, and I hired multiple narrators because I want to have the story be from multiple perspectives and different, I want you to hear that person's voice when that person speaks. I don't want you to just be like one person reading the full story and they're like, it's their interpretation of that person's voice. So book 4, I want to take a different approach where I have the sound effects and all of that because I want you to feel like you're in there. Like, yeah, I feel what's going on. I feel this. There's a really sad part in the book. I feel that. Oh my gosh, I feel it in here. You know what I mean? Like, so I want it to be almost like a movie. But trust me, one day I'm gonna get there with maybe a TV show or something like that.
That is really exciting. But just the way you explained, having to research your past work to be able to go, move on to the next one, it really puts me in mind. And I hate to always mention Tyler Perry, but like when you think of a lot of like his productions, like I used to love The Haves and the Have-Nots.
Oh yes! Oh my gosh! Yes.
It was like he could do a season, and Lord have mercy, he would have like 36 episodes in the season. So it's like you watch one season, and then you get to the next season, and it opens up all these new characters, and then you kind of start to see how they are connected to the characters from the first one, or like something will happen in season 3, and it's like it'll piggyback off of something that you saw maybe in season 1, episode 4, and then you never heard anything else about it until you got to season 3, and then it was like, damn, like how the hell does it do that and figure all of that out? But I would imagine it takes going back and actually researching your work and looking at what you've done before and how you like. I think that's amazing. And then you talk about the narrator piece. I'm like, shit, maybe I need to be a narrator or something. So,
you can. Yeah. No, you totally can too, because there's a platform where people can go audition, or you can just go sign up to be a narrator and audition for different things.
I need to do that. I'm thinking about jobs. But no, I think that's really, really cool. So June 2nd is the big day. So
Mhm.
what will we see on June 2nd? What happens on June 2nd?
Oh, I'm gonna do a video. Yeah, I'm gonna do on my social medias and things like that. And I'm gonna say, let everyone know it's here and everything. The book right now is up for pre-order, so you can actually pre-order it right now.
I'm
You
gonna go
can get it
ahead and
either on
actually
Kindle
pre-order it.
or yes, yes. It's on
But
Kindle
I
and
don't
it's
even have a
on
Kindle
paper.
anymore. I don't even have a Kindle anymore, but I'm gonna go ahead and pre-order it and
You
just
can do
go
it
ahead
on your
and do it.
phone. Yeah, the Kindle's on your phone. You get the Kindle
I was
app.
gonna say I think I can still use the Kindle app though. I
Mhm.
haven't used it in eons, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna pre-order it just to support because I think this is really dope.
Thank you, thank you. No, yeah. So it's gonna be out there. I haven't written, and I don't know if you saw the I had a big gap of writing
Right.
releasing a book. So COVID happened and all that stuff, and I just was like not
Yeah.
influenced, and there was a lot of things going on in COVID in that year that was kind of an eye opener and for all of our culture and things like that. And there's a lot of things that was going on that we kind of saw and realized where we live and the things that are going on with our people. And so it kind of slowed me down with writing. I was just like wasn't feeling it, you know what I mean? But I put it out. I finally started writing and, and completing everything, and I started
So
getting
what
that
got you back
back
to
again.
writing?
I'm sorry.
Like what got you back to writing? Like I understand wholeheartedly how that whole ordeal and the
Hmm.
pandemic would pull you away from it. So what ultimately got you back in that place of okay, I'm ready to do this.
Um, I guess part of that spiritual journey that I was on, and I'm still on it really at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But just kind of it almost wouldn't leave me alone, if that makes sense. I always kept thinking about the story. It just was always in the back of my head. And, like having these like, imaginary conversations, like, in your head about the characters. Like I actually saw this movie last night that he said the same thing I was thinking. It's called American Fiction or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I know that.
Um, yeah, so with that guy, I forgot his name, Jeffrey Wright, I think his name is.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
And
and he
he
said that in the
amazing.
oh my gosh, he's amazing. I just love him.
He is really, really I just saw a movie with him and Erica Alexander. I can't think of it. I don't think that was it, or was it? Is that the movie where he was taking care of his mother?
Oh yeah, yeah, and it was Tracy Ellis Ross was in there, and
Yeah.
Issa
Okay,
Rae
because
was
Tracy Ellis
there as
Ross
well.
passed away, and
Yeah.
Erica Alexander was the girlfriend that lived across the street from the mother's
Oh
house.
yes, yes. Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't think I saw it, but I did see it.
Yes,
Um,
it's such a good movie.
he's an amazing actor. Like his role in that movie is like a total contrast from him
Mhm.
in Shaft, which was what 20 something years ago when he played in Shaft.
I didn't even know he played in
And he played in the Samuel Jackson remake, and he was like
Oh,
he was the bad guy.
oh,
So
I just love him.
if you get a chance, watch that, and you'll
Yeah.
be like, really?
I know him from Westworld, like because I'm a sci-fi person. So
Yes, yes.
Westworld is like a sci-fi kind of remake
Uh-huh.
show, and it was on
He's been in a
HBO.
ton of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So but no, he said in that movie, he says these words of like he says something along the lines of like having imaginary conversations with imaginary characters in your head kind of thing as an author. And I was like, that's me. Like I literally think through so things would just pop up. I'll be watching a show or a movie and I'm like, it's like a dialogue from the like what I should add to my story would just pop up in my head. So those things kind of pushed me to continue writing as well because it's almost like you create these characters and people want to hear from these characters like what happens to them. You don't want to
Yeah.
you get attached to them. You want to know what happens next in their lives. You don't want them to just kind of fade out and you never hear from them again. So
Uh-huh.
that's kind of where what kind of pushed me to just keep going. um but I definitely took my time. It took me like 2 years to really write the book. I took my
Man,
time.
that is, and I can understand that. I've been writing. I don't even know what I want to call it. I guess an autobiography, or
Yeah,
I've
no, that's good.
basically
That's
just been
really good.
writing a book. I mean, I've essentially been writing the book, and I've been writing on this book for like 4 or 5 years now, and I'm just
But your
like,
life is still going. You got to build upon it. So there you go.
yeah. I think my problem is I'll sit down and I'll write like I at one point I had like 20,000 words already.
Oh,
And then
wow.
I was just like, okay, I got to get rid of all that and start over. So I have started
No.
over probably 3 times. So I don't know. It's just like I number one, I'm still learning obviously about the writing process and all of that, but I
Mhm.
just think that a lot of it
I'm still
is
like that too.
knowing how I guess how I want to tell my story and
Mhm.
I guess what's relevant and what's not relevant and what do people really want to hear and what do they not want to hear. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know which way I want to go. So I'm still writing, but I can get how it'll take you some time or take you a while to
Yeah.
get it done.
Well, I have my own kind of system. So I make sure that I write like once, I mean, an hour a day.
Okay.
Whatever comes out of me in that hour, I'm gonna just accept it as it's a step forward. That's it.
Yeah.
So if I write, I don't know, a sentence, I'd be like, yes, I got that sentence out. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because what happens when you write a sentence, it kind of builds itself for when you go back to the story, you read a sentence and it just sparks another
Okay.
thought. And it just keeps going and going and going. Next thing you know, you have a paragraph. Next thing you know, you have a chapter. And so I would say for you too, like to start writing down sentences a day, like an hour a day, commit to an hour a day, write down a sentence. And
I'm
then
gonna try
next
that.
thing, because you don't have to even, you'll see what happens is that things will spark, you'll get like a battery in your back and things will just spark for you. And as you're writing that one sentence, next thing you know, you're like, oh, and let me add this too. And let me add that too. You should see like the way that I write. Like right now, the next book in this fourth book that I'm putting out, the next series that comes next, I'm already starting to put that together. But it just looks crazy right now. It's like a whole like page filled with just quotes and dialogue, and I'll just be like, this is how he looks, like this is how that character looks now, this is how the world looks now. Like I'll just write like I'm talking to myself, almost like not necessarily
Yeah.
an actual like book kind of outline. And but that helps me because it sparks something as I'm reading it, as I go back to it, and you just keep going back to it and going back to it, and
Right.
your headspace is different every single time you go back to it. So when you go back to it, it just starts, coming together out of nowhere, and next thing you know, you're like, how did I do this?
I tell you what, a quality that I love about authors, and I see that you have that quality. I have a really really good friend. Actually, she's one of my clients for my podcast network, so she does a podcast on the network. But she's a self-published author. She is on maybe her fifth book now. But
Mm.
what I will find with her is that she'll be writing a book, and she might be writing 2 or 3 different books at one time,
Oh
and
yes. Mhm.
then she'll finish this one and it's not released yet. She's like in the process of trying to get it in Walmart and trying to get it in local bookstores and black owned bookstores and that sort of thing. And she'll be like, "Yeah, I'm halfway through my next one already," and I'm like, "Hell, like who writes like that? Like who can write like that?"
That's
And
amazing. I'm not there yet.
obviously we have different thoughts going on in our heads, all at
Mhm.
one time. But I'm like, how is she writing 2 totally different books at one time? I'm
Right.
like, how do you do that? So I ask you, how do you do that?
Um, so what I don't necessarily write 2 books at the same time. I'm not there yet, but I I can almost take nuggets from the current book and place it into like my almost outline. I don't want to call it an outline, but my like the chapters. Like I'll write out the chapters,
Yeah.
and I do use this platform too. So this is a platform called Noveler, and Noveler
Okay.
is spelled Novlr. So
Okay.
it's not like noveler, but
Yeah.
um, so Novlr, and so I use that platform, and you can just like kind of plan things and write out the chapters. So I will just write this book that I just released, but I mean I'm releasing on June 2nd. I will write it, but in the middle of me writing it, I'm like, oh, you know what? This should it'll spark something that should happen with that character next book. So and then I'll just throw that into the chapter list for the next book so that it's
Yeah.
just there for later on. So then what happens for me, my creative process is that later on when I go back to it, I'm reading like all the random notes that I wrote over time
Mhm.
while writing this current book, and then I'm like, that's a good idea. Let me expand on that. And the next
Yeah.
thing you know, I'm like writing an entire book. So that's kind of how my creative process works. I would love to write multiple books at once, but it's kind of like I gotta get. So it has like she kudos to her, man, because I can't do that. But
I want she doesn't, but she do it, and she'll be like, "Oh yeah, I finished my next book," and I'm like, "Okay," and
that's
here I am
amazing.
still writing on the same book 5 years later, but I'm like, okay.
But
Um,
as long as you get it out, as long as you're putting something down, you're gonna feel more accomplished. That's one thing,
yeah,
like to not push it. There's a reason why it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like and that's why I have to kind of understand about myself. Like stop pushing it because it took me a while to write this book, and I was kept on saying to myself, "Oh my gosh, like just get the book done. Oh my gosh, just get the book done." But like when I realized like I can't push it, it'll come to me because I
mhm.
didn't know it'll be like up to the last moment. I don't remember. I don't know what I'm going where I'm going with something at all. And then next thing you know, it'll just come to me. I have to just like step away for like a few days. I'll step away for a day. I've stepped away from the book for like a month. Just to like really get my thoughts together because I'm like, I don't know where this is going. I don't know. But it
But
worked
that
out.
is yeah, that is so cool. So June
Mhm,
2nd, your fourth edition or your fourth book comes out.
mhm.
What kind of is I guess I want to say the setup or like what's kind of the plan once it's actually out, just in terms of pushing it out to the masses?
I'm gonna be working with Brandon.
Yeah,
I and kind of getting out there and really trying because my first three books are just me, just just doing what I could do on my own without actually hiring help and things like that.
yeah,
And
that's it.
so yeah, so now it's like okay, I told myself 2024 is the year where I'm going to get out of my shell and put myself out there. No more sitting back and
That part.
letting
That part.
yeah, right? Like I
I
was like,
just
no more. Like
text my cousin. Probably, I have a cousin in LA, and I just texted him like 2 hours ago, like, dude, I'm getting a flight down there June 26th. It's an event going on for the BET Awards. We are going,
what?
and
Oh
I'll be
my
down there
gosh.
until the 28th. And the
That's
thing
amazing.
is, just what you said, like you got to put yourself out there.
Hmm.
Uh, and the thing,
Otherwise, what are you doing it for? Like,
absolutely,
like
absolutely,
it's nice to have your own thing you do on the side. It's not like you have to perform for anyone, but
yeah,
you at the end of the day, you want to have some type of kind of security outside of working a 9 to 5. You know what I mean?
absolutely,
A lot of us are building new things because we're like, no more. I'm done doing this. Like this is not making me happy. This is not fulfilling me in
yeah.
any way. I'm not getting anything from this.
Mhm.
So you want to use the thing that you're talented in or the thing that you love to make your money. You know what I mean?
And see,
So
that's where I was with the 9 to 5. Like I
yeah.
left the corporate world 2.5 years ago. So
Hmm.
all I do is the media stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like I just texted him earlier and said,
Congrats for
"Listen,
that
I'm
too.
coming. I'm coming. We're gonna go." And the thing is, I have a lot of access to stuff like that,
Oh
and
my
sometimes
gosh, what? I'm
I
gonna hit
just
you up and be like, so
a lot of times I just opt not to go because I'm like, I gotta get a flight and I gotta spend all this money coming and I gotta get a
Mhm.
hotel. And my cousin is like, man, shut up. Like you can stay here at the house. Like, and I'm
Right.
just like, but I guess I don't have a reason not to go. So okay, I'm
Yeah.
coming next month. But then I'm doing Essence Fest, and that was like
Oh
a
my gosh, that's like a dream of mine. I've been wanting to go there forever.
battle within myself. Like, should I go? Should I not go? Like,
Mhm.
do I really want to spend money going down there? And it's like the 4th of July, and I'm going. So
Yeah,
this is
no,
that
for
year to
real.
like this is that year for us to put ourselves out there. So I
Right.
think
Mhm.
we are like aligned in so many different ways.
Mhm.
I think this is amazing. Like I'm really excited for the fourth edition or for your fourth book
Yes.
to release. But I'm even more excited to actually get through Ascension 1, Ascension 2,
So
and
let me know what you think after you read it. Like I
I
really I
absolutely
wanna
I
know from a male perspective.
now I wonder what do you feel is do you find that people have a big difference between listening to the audio version and then actually reading it?
Yeah, so some people just get turned off by the voices, the narrators.
Because
And so
I'm thinking of that narrator, and I was like, I don't know.
yeah,
I
that's
kind
the
of
thing
just
that
want to read
happens.
it.
Yeah. So if you
Like
read
I
it, you
kind
can
of just
kind of
want to
create
read
your
it
own.
because then as I'm
Mhm.
reading, like my mind starts to wander and like think about other like I kind of just want to read it.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, some people, like I have a friend right now, she's reading it because she prefers to read it because
Okay.
she doesn't want to have like sometimes the narrator. You have to find. That's why, as an author, you got to find really good narrators too, because
Yeah.
sometimes narration people will get turned off. Oh, I don't like his. I don't like her voice. I don't like his voice. I don't like the way that he said this, and I don't like the cadence or whatever. Like really weird things that you just find, and it's just that's just happens. That's how people are. That's people.
Yeah.
Period. You know what I mean? So, that's something that I always say, whatever you feel. That's why I have it on all the different platforms, and that's why I have it, different ways to consume
Yeah.
it.
No, I think that's good though. Like you're like even with what you're doing, you're opening my eyes to so many different things that I'll be able to do even once I get my book out there. And
Yeah.
I thought about the audio piece, like of having it like on Audible or something like that. But I
Mhm.
think I would want to like I think like for an autobiography or something about me, I think I would want to be the one actually reading it. But then I could
Right.
picture
That makes
myself
sense.
like
Yeah.
putting extra feeling into it and raising my voice here and
Yeah.
I'm like I could really turn this into like a production. So I
Uh-huh.
kind of want to do it.
No, that would be good. Like, and definitely when you're ready to put it out, like I definitely want to hear it, or because
I
I
definitely
love that. Like,
I absolutely will. I'm trying my hand at like I didn't want to go through the process of trying to find like a publisher and like all of that stuff. So I'm self-publishing.
yeah.
Um
Hmm.
and I think that's kind of that really is where I am with everything that I do. So I kind of just
Hmm.
like to I really like to be able to just kind of do my own thing. And that kind of
Hmm.
takes me back to a comment that you made all the way a whole hour ago because we've been on this for over an hour. So you were just you were just talking about how you do your graphics
Oh
and
yes. Yeah.
I'm like in that place after doing it for so long, I kind of fell into this place where okay, I know how to do this and I know how to do PR and I know how to do graphics and I know how to
Hmm.
do websites and I know so I'm almost like a one man show when it comes
Right.
to like
Hmm.
all of the different facets and pieces of the company. But I think probably as of maybe the last year or two, I'm just now getting to a place where I kind of outsource some things and I have a
Hmm.
graphic designer who does kind of like the stuff that I'm like, okay, I don't have time to do that. And
Hmm.
I can't put that in between Uber rides and stuff like that. So I have
Right.
somebody else on this piece, or I want it to be on a grander scale. So I'll have him work on that. But then a lot of the other stuff, I just don't do myself. And then, even in terms of the podcast network, and then if I do websites for anybody else, like I focus specifically on the fact that everything that I do is for I don't want to say the simple-minded person, but the person who does not have time to sit down and
Hmm.
try to figure all of this excess stuff out, and they just want a website up. Like they don't
Right.
want nothing
Mhm.
with fireworks going across the screen and rockets and like all of that kind of stuff with the
Yeah.
fireworks plus and all these different programs that'll it'll make this jump on the screen and I'm like
Hmm.
don't nobody have time for that. Like if they don't have time for it and it's gonna slow their computer down. So
Hmm.
like you kind of have to think of who your audience is too.
True.
And
Hmm.
if you know that you have an older audience, depending on what your service is and what you're getting your website for, if you know that much of your audience is going to be 40 plus or 50 plus,
Hmm.
they don't care about all that stuff. And like they probably have a computer that's probably 10 years old. And they're gonna try to get on there. And then if you have
Very
all this
true.
extra spark and all of that stuff, they're gonna be like, this is gonna tear my computer up. I can't go on here. So
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
kind of focus on like I guess being more simplistic and kind of
Mhm.
making it cost effective for people. So I think a lot of a lot of the things that you do, you kind of got to find your own process and find your own niche and figure out where you fit in because regardless of how you do it, there's somebody that wants it that way.
Right.
So it doesn't
And then
matter.
there's also you can hire somebody if you feel like you can't, and you don't have to be a jack of all trades. You can just
Absolutely,
export it out to someone else if you know for sure
absolutely,
you know what. And it takes a lot for a person to realize, oh, you know what, this is not my strong area.
yeah, absolutely.
So when I did the first three books, the book cover was done by someone I hired on Fiverr. But then book
It's
four,
funny because
yeah,
my graphic designer is from Fiverr, and I'm good at networking and I guess selling the dream. So I actually pulled him from Fiverr, and then
Mhm.
we work separately from Fiverr, so
Right.
that whenever
Mhm.
he does anything for me, he actually gets the full profit. Versus if we go through
Oh,
Fiverr,
yeah, and that's
then they
helping,
take
yeah.
like a percentage of it or whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, and then that's what I did. So book 4 was just me now being seasoned in the process that I was like, I'm doing my own book cover. I'm pulling my own graphics. Now we have AI. I made my characters on AI platform called Midjourney. And then
hmm
so on the book cover, if you look at the Amazon site, the book cover is me prompting Midjourney, that AI platform, to create
yeah,
my characters based upon what I plug in. Then I pulled in a background, then I put it all into Photoshop. I added the words and everything. I did it all myself. So my entire
yeah.
book cover, my book formatting, all of my graphics on my Instagram, all of that was done by me. So
Okay.
so
That's
it
awesome.
feels more fulfilling at the end of the day because you're like, wow, like, so
I
not
did.
only that, like, people are getting that part of me at the same time as getting my work that's written, the written
Uh-huh.
word, they're also getting the artistic part of me at the same time. So I found a way to mesh the two in some way.
I love I love that. I love that. So listen, I'm really, really looking forward to this on June 2nd.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you felt like you really wanted to get out there with this conversation today?
No, just I guess my final thing is just to tell our people, like, let everyone know that, like, you can do anything you set your mind to. You can build things on your own. Don't feel like this imposter syndrome is it, that you just need to, that you're like done and you feel this kind of weight on you for no reason. That weight is probably even our ancestors and telling us to move forward and keep going, because at the end of the day, you are your ancestors' wildest dreams. So make sure that
Absolutely.
you feel that you create and use the wonderful gifts that God has given you. So it's pretty
I
much.
think this is amazing. I think that you're amazing.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for this opportunity. Um, I love this. I
No,
think it's
thank you
really
for
good.
talking with me. I really loved being on the show as well.
Yeah. Brandon always brings me like the best people. So I swear every
I
time
love
he
working with Brandon. Like,
yeah, and that's something else that I just was gonna say too. Before we end, you are in the right place. Like you are in the right place. I don't, and I try to think back to how Brandon and I even connected in the first place. I know it was either based on me doing my magazine because I published a digital magazine too. So
oh,
it
okay, I
was
can look that
either
up.
based on me doing that
Hmm.
or it may have been a radio show that I was doing.
Hmm.
And this was all the way back in maybe 2015 or 16. So I
Hmm.
mean, we've been working together for the greater part of a decade. And I mean, he's gotten me to, you know, Mila Williams from 702 to like tons of people. I've gone out and done some of the events that he was working in Atlanta when he was
Hmm.
living in the Atlanta area. And he just has like even outside of like the music or the entertainment stuff, like he's been that person that's gonna support and who's gonna be there and
Hmm.
um who believes in, that's what I was trying to say, who believes in what it is that you're doing. Like he fully supports. Like even right now, like I have a nephew who wants to get into some media stuff and he does a lot of mentoring of kids, who want to
Hmm.
get in the media world. And he's gonna help with some of that stuff. And it's just like to have people like him kind of in
Hmm.
your corner, that's like one of the best things that you can do. And just like how you have kind of done everything yourself, and now you've
Hmm.
actually hired somebody, so you're with Brandon. That's kind of where I was. Like I had been doing everything myself and trying to figure it out, and then Brandon came along, and
Right.
he was like my publicist for like a year.
Yeah, and you
Um,
know what he said to me that really stuck with me? And he was like, and I was like, of course you think that to be validated, you need to have a certain publishing house, that you are under. And then he looked at me and was like, why? Why do you feel like you need that to be to be bigger? Why do you feel like you need to have someone validate that for you? And then I was like, you know what? You're right.
yeah, but he
It-
makes you
He makes you think, right?
Yeah, he makes you think, and not even just making you think, but he makes you realize like who you are and your own value and what you're worth. And like I've been able to do some amazing things through my platforms because of Brandon. So
Mhm.
like you are in the right place. Like if you ever questioned it, you are in the right place and you working with the right person and you working with
Mhm.
somebody that's not gonna sell you a dream or sell you like a I guess a wolf ticket or none of that stuff. Like
Mhm.
he's gonna be the real and he's gonna get you to where it is that you want to be. So I think you're definitely in the right place. I appreciate you for your time.
Thank you so much. I
Very
appreciate you.
seldom do I really get to sit and talk to somebody for like an hour and 10 minutes. Like this is like I find this to be amazing. And for once, I don't have to transcribe an interview that's an hour and 10 minutes. So I'm like, oh, thank you, God. Um, this podcasting thing is so amazing because most times I do the interviews and we just run them on the platforms and we don't have to
Mhm.
transcribe all that stuff. And I like for people to be able to actually get like the real conversation and what we
Right.
actually talked about instead of things being paraphrased and all of that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
I appreciate you. I appreciate what it is that you do because you're inspiring the world. You are inspiring me. Definitely to finish my book, but
Yes,
you get me
I'm gonna check
all.
in on you. I'll
Please,
hold you accountable.
please do. And I like you have given me all sorts of ideas already, just in terms of the way I want to do some things. And I'm already thinking about okay, I'm gonna start over, which is
Yeah.
crazy, but I think this time when I start over, because I almost feel like what I want to do is, how some people will release a book and it's kind of just like a bunch of short stories.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Mhm.
I almost kind of want to do it that way, but not necessarily just short stories, but I kind of want to touch on like many points of like my life,
Mhm.
like from the beginning up until now.
Mhm.
And when I first started writing the book, it was fully and wholeheartedly about my divorce. So I was mad. I was mad, and it was when I tell you it was all on print. Like I was mad, and then I got to a point where we was good, and I was like, I can't put this out because if I put this out,
Okay, I
we're
see.
not
Yeah.
gonna we're not gonna be good. So I started over again, and it's just like I think the biggest problem, and you may have solved this problem already, but I think the biggest problem is I'll be in a space where I'm like, okay, I ain't got nothing but time. So I could sit and I could write and I could write
Mhm.
25,000 words and I'm like, ooh, I'm halfway done. And
Mhm.
then it'll be so much going on that I might not write anything for like 3 or 4 months. And then it's like when I get ready to go back, I'm like, what the hell did I write? I got to read through all of this stuff to even know where to pick up that again. So then, then I
Right.
end up starting over. So I think
Or
it's
okay, really quickly. Okay, so you can create an episodic podcast where each episode releases maybe twice a month. So that way you can pace yourself and write in real time. And so
actually,
you don't have to put it all out at once with this like very, uh kind of filled you know, kind of like, a book kind of
right.
layout where it's like 60,000 words. Instead, you create it in such a way that it's a podcast episode. And so you're like, okay, episode one is going to be this. And then my next episode is going to release, 2 weeks from now. And then I don't release another one until, you know, the next month.
I
So,
like that. Okay, so now I'm gonna have to say executive produced by Yolanda Hatcher because you just gave me this. Because I don't want to put it out and then it be in the comments somewhere like I gave him this idea. Like,
no, we have to all uplift each other and help each other think through other routes of doing things. And remember, if it's the less conventional it is, the more like innovative it is. So you're like
and more people are
releasing
really
someone
gonna
else
take
never
to
thought
it
about.
because it's something that nobody else is doing. I
Yeah.
like that. I really, really like that. I really like that. So thank you so much. Um the last thing I want you to do is just plug like social media, website, and
Oh
where
yes.
people can get
Okay.
you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, James. It was very great just meeting you and talking to you. I feel like we're like kindred souls.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are gonna talk
Um,
more. Like we
yes,
absolutely.
yes. So I could be found on Facebook and Instagram under author Yolanda Hatcher or Yolanda Hatcher Books. So you could just look. It's I got married during this process, so there's a different last name there, but
I
it's
got you.
Yolanda Hatcher Books on Instagram and Yolanda Hatcher Books on Facebook. My website is just yolandahatcher.com. So pretty easy to find. If you're looking for the book to purchase on Amazon or Audible, just look up my name. Makes it easier. Just type in Yolanda Hatcher, and that's it.
Again, thank you so much.
Thank
I know we'll
you.
do this again, and Brandon keeps me abreast of everything that's going
Yeah.
on. So if anything else pops up there, we'll definitely get you back on. And then I have a number of platforms, so I mean, I can always get
Oh,
you on
that's
something,
great.
that sort of thing. So thank you
Yeah, let me know
so.
next time you're in Vegas.
Well, listen, I might be there. Actually, I had this epiphany, and I'm like, it's time to get out there. So now I'm doing all
Yep,
these trips. So,
yep.
um,
2024 is the year.
yeah. So I actually may be there the week after Essence. So that's like July 12th or something. I was gonna tell Brandon because I have a friend who's getting married in Vegas. So
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out it's always the money. So I'm just trying to figure out the money and the flights and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And once I
Mhm.
figure all that out, then I'll know for sure if I'm coming or not.
Right,
But
right.
because I got to get my room in the Venetian and all that stuff. So I'm like, if
Oh,
I
you
ain't
know
got
what? If you do the off-trip hotels, it's cheaper.
I
So
know. I just like. I guess I'm sedity. I guess I like the Venetian.
it is beautiful over there. Yeah,
When
that's how
I
they
do,
get y'all. That's how they get y'all.
it is. I do the Soul Train Awards a lot, which is usually at the
Oh,
Orleans.
nice.
So
Oh,
usually when I come down there, I stay like at one of the off strip ones, like the Candlewood Suites, because it'll be like $60 or $70 a night or something.
hmm
So
yeah. Red Rock is really nice too. Red Rock is actually gives you that same kind of feel, but
yeah.
more affordable. Red Rock
Ooh,
Casino.
somebody
Mhm.
else told me that too.
Right.
See, you trying to pull me away from the Venetian, but you might have did it. So I figure all that out, but I very well may be there like the middle of July though.
Okay. Yeah, let
So
me
I will
know.
keep you both posted. But thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so much again. I
we will
appreciate
do
you.
it again.
All righty.
All
Thank
right,
you.
you have a good day.
Nice meeting everybody on the call. Have a good day.
Bye bye.
Bye.